Hello, everybody. By PC Pod or Pad, you are watching the Paid to Play podcast launch party for episode 80. My name is Rob Farker, your host, and in each of these episodes, we explore the dangerous idea that bringing your whole self, especially the parts of you that you worry make you seem silly, geeky, or odd, into your income-generating life is one of the best things you can do. It mightn't be easy, but it is easier than we think and even fear. And with the help of my guests in each episode, I'd like to show you how. Now, it's a particular first for this launch party. For episode 80, my chat with Sim Lauren, commission miniatures painter and consignment knitter, because as you probably just saw, she is actually live and online right now. So this is the first time I've had a podcast guest being on the launch party right from the beginning of the party. Thank you very much for coming along, Sim.
No worries.
So while I go through all the social media stuff and make sure that everything is displaying online properly from Facebook to Twitter, etc., how have you been since we last spoke?
I've been good. I went and saw lots and lots and lots of very pretty miniatures and paint and cases and games and things at Salute. Which was on the 16th of April.
Oh, fantastic.
And then we've had some very, very exciting and interesting things happen with the Games Workshop release schedule in the last couple of weekends, which has got the entire community completely excited, which is brilliant. And then I had an epiphany not yesterday, the day before, that I've got 2 weeks to Golden Demon and I haven't actually painted anything to put into it. So I've come up with a concept and I've got a long weekend. So Monday is a public holiday here in the UK. So I am going to paint up my Golden Demon entry for Golden Demon on the 15th of May. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a fantastic concept and it's so obvious. And everyone, I'm not going to tell anybody until it's done. But it is just so good, and I cannot believe that I haven't seen it already. And it's just, I'm so incredibly excited about it. So we'll be kind of live tweeting the creating of my single miniature entry for Golden Demon 2016.
Fantastic. That will be fun to see. So, folks, if you want to watch a potentially award-winning miniatures assembly and painting, keep an eye on Painty Sim's Twitter feed.
I don't have time to put into it to win a competition piece, but I am wanting to put something in as something that everybody who sees it, I hope, will love it and enjoy it, and it will be awesome. I'm doing it for the awesome. But most people who win these competitions will spend weeks and weeks and weeks and months. They'll start painting for next year's Golden Demon the weekend after this year's Golden Demon, and it takes a lot of planning and dedication and time I just don't have at the moment. But that's no way to do it.
Have you entered any Golden Demons before?
Yeah, well, here it's weird. You turn up to Games Day and you hand in your miniature. They give you a slip of paper and you're in. It's really easy in the UK to do it. So you just turn up and go, here's my model, and you're in. So I've tried to enter every year I could, and the brilliant thing about it though is that the judges are quite happy to give you constructive feedback if you grab them afterwards and go, what can I do to make this at the next level? And they have really good suggestions, and sort of what does me in is the IP. So I'll paint something up that just would not be realistic in their universe, and it kind of takes them out of their headspace a bit, and they can't quite reconcile that. So it's my undoing. There's no way a clan rat would be that clean. I'm like, mine's clean, and he's like, no. But I do bright blues very well. But it's not muddy enough. I had a real problem with weathering originally, was that you paint something up really, 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 really well, and you do hand sort of freehand all over it, and you get really intricate pattern on it, and then you just cover it in mud and gunk. And I have a big problem messing up my model after I've done it nice. I must admit.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, it looks all bright and glorious, and then you've got to make it look all weathered and realistic, and like it's been through the muck. And that must be heartbreaking.
And I've spent 45 hours hand painting that Greek key border on that cloak, and now I'm gonna make it like no, can't do it. So I tend to paint very, very clean, very sort of my personal styles. There's a lot of bright blues and purples and things. Again, I think that's influenced by where I grew up. Australia, we've got some very beautiful, bright wildlife and flowers, and in the sky, there's so much light in the sky. It does change your perspective on the world, definitely. And
no, I will say that was kind of one of the things when I went back to the UK in 2003. It just comparatively, after having spent 88, 98, 15 years in Australia, it just my first thought about the UK was, it's grey.
It is grey. Sometimes it's not. There are days when it's just like this week. It's been cold, but the sky in between the thunderstorms and the snowstorms has been beautiful and blue and promising. But you walk outside and it's 4 degrees, and you're like, no. It's April. What is going on? Seriously. Last snow in October. It's weird. Really strange. But apparently it's going to be warm next week. I'm holding out for that. 17. That's really warm. Sorry.
Indeed, 17 degrees, and that is 17 degrees centigrade Celsius for any US listeners, watchers who might be viewing this at the moment. So it's not 17 Fahrenheit, which is really bloody chilly. I'm not exactly sure how it converts, but
you add 30 and double it, and it's a little bit less than that. So if it's 17, you add 30, it's 47. You double it, it's about 87.
Yeah. All right. Now, how are we going so far? Your episode is now up on Patreon, by the way. It's up on Facebook. So let's see. I'm just running back and forth looking at my various social media thingies and trying to figure out where I need to put it up next. It's up on YouTube, and I have embedded the video in the page. So, folks, if you are watching along, if you haven't got the episode already, go to www.paidtoplay.com.au, and that is 2 with a T-O, not a number 2 or a T-O-O, /Sim-Lauren, or if you just go to paidtoplay.com.au, you'll see it right there at the top of the page. So you can get it and download it if your iTunes or aggregator isn't already downloading it for you. You can also find the link up on Facebook. It should also be by now up on Twitter. Yep, there we go.
It's definitely on YouTube. I got it here.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, this is probably the this live chat right at the moment is the best way to actually see Sim, because the podcast chat was purely video only. Now let's see. So I had to love your feedback on the episode when I gave you early access. You said, "Yay! I don't sound like an umpty."
Oh, always listening to your voice back, you're like, and I was worried that it was umming and ahhing, but it's all right. I used to hate the sound of my own voice, and what actually got me is how Australian I sound on the recording.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, because everyone here tells my accent's gone a bit Brit, but yeah.
I can't quite hear it yet, but I mean, people still pick up my British accent even after, 18. No, I'm getting my math ass about face here. 88, 98, 2008, 28 years out of the country, and we left when I was 10. People can still pick the accent.
It used to be, okay, so when I knew Rob in the 90s back in Sydney, it used to be very British. But then he moved to Cairns, mate, and it's really gone quite strong since you've been up there. North of the great beyond. Yeah. So it's all right.
Oh, well, that's a relief. No, it's good to know that moving to Queensland was good for something. Okay, where else are we? Let me just run through my checklist here. Facebook, yes. Better make sure I share it on the Friends of the Pay to Play podcast group when the thing stops thinking. That's the annoying thing about doing this. It's a lot of me sitting and watching a screen and trying to think of something to say while I'm also frantically typing on the keyboard. And folks, it is true, blokes cannot multitask. We really can't. So me just typing something like episode 80 is now live, download, share, and enjoy takes up all of my meager mental capacity. And of course, let's see, I've got to make sure I share this on my personal feed as well. By the way, folks, if you are watching this live on the Hangout page, Q&A mode is live. If you do have any questions for either myself or Sim, or even the both of us somehow, put them in and we will answer them for you. So you probably wouldn't have heard the episode yet, but my guest is a miniatures painter. If you hadn't guessed from the talk about Golden Demon and Salute in the UK, Golden Demon is a big, is it annual, or are they doing it more than once a year at the moment?
Well, yeah. Okay, so it used to be annual per country, but they've stopped at every Warhammer Fest or Games Day. Games Day is now called Warhammer Fest.
Oh, right.
And they've stopped them in a lot of the regional countries, particularly Europe. I'm not sure if it's even running in Australia anymore. Was for a little bit. And they're running many Warhammer Fests throughout the years that have, or open days or event days where they have mini Golden Demons with their theme. So the last one that I went to was Space Marines theme, which was really interesting. So it was just a bunch of Space Marine vehicles, Space Marine troops, Space Marine characters. It was awesome, absolutely brilliant. And they had a staff category, and the attendees of the weekend it was a 2-day event. The attendees got to vote on the staff category, which was brilliant. So that was something really interesting and different. And it's nice that I think that they're trying new things and seeing what works and what doesn't. But they're back to having the big Golden Demon at Warhammer Fest, which is open and not thematic, and you can enter anything that they manufacture, which is great. So it gave me an opportunity, because that's why I didn't put Bowler, my Titan, into the Golden Demon last year, is because it's not a Space Marine.
Yes, if you're watching along, folks, and you're not sure exactly what we're talking about, the Space Marines are kind of like a Games Workshop, Golden Demon, Games Day, Warhammer Fest, all this sort of thing. They're all products of this big company that started in the UK in the early to mid-80s called Games Workshop. And they used to be sort of like a general hobby company until they put out these two big intellectual properties of their own, Warhammer Fantasy Battle and Warhammer 40,000. And of the two, Warhammer 40,000 is the one that's really taken off, because I think really it's pretty unique. We talk about it a little bit in the in episode 80, but it takes sort of like a gothic fantasy setting. Think J.R.R. Tolkien's kind of Middle-earth with humans and orcs and dwarves and elves. With
no,
a
there's
really...
no dwarfs in 40k. Squats are gone, mate. No squats.
Indeed, they are. Yeah, and I mean, Warhammer Fantasy already gives it a kind of a gothic twist with the presence of chaos, which is basically this dark magical force which everyone reckons is eventually going to cause the end of the world because it gets into everything and it corrupts and
it did. They had End of Times last year or the year before, and they rebooted the entire universe as Age of Sigmar. So there's now only 4 factions. So Chaos and Order are the 2 big factions, and then there's Death and Destruction as secondary factions.
Right.
And that's where a lot of this recent, they brought out their new system, did not have any points, 0 points. I bring my models, you bring your models, and we track them across the table at each other. And they've just announced this last week that they're reintroducing points play for competitive play and another system called narrative play, which seems to be more campaign driven, or you act out what the novels do. From what I can figure out, they've really, really, really tapped down on the rumor mill on this. It is incredible how quickly this stuff normally leaks out, but they've done a really nice job, and I'm hoping there'll be a lot more at Open Day or Warhammer Fest on the 14th and 15th. I'm really looking forward to it. But it's tempted me back in. It's no longer these massive battles. You can quite happily play a skirmish game in the fantasy setting. But they've reinvented a lot of the races. They've taken out a lot of the old models. They're starting to phase out. It's really exciting, and the massive release this year of a whole lot of orc stuff that's it's so stunning. They've got enormous monstrous creatures and some really nice orc models going on that sold out very, very quickly. So super exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that talk of points, by the way, Christian Taylor just said, found the Q&A selecting question. This is the first time I've...
Mr. Christian.
Yes, an old mate of both of ours, by the way, folks.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Chris, look, I got Sim on. It did it great. All right. Well, I better click done because I think that we can't really answer. Found the Q&A route with anything other than glad you found it, mate. So I'll just click done there. This is the first time I've ever really. I mean, we had questions come up last time, but I didn't realize you could, click on a thing and say, I'm answering this now, and then click done and sort of move it out of the queue. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, we were talking a little bit about points, and the general idea is when you play these games, you and your opponent decide how many points you're going to play with, which is the amount that you get to spend on buying miniatures for your force. The idea being that a team... 2 sides with an equal amount of points are generally evenly matched. It's just up to you to play tactically and use the particular strengths of the side that you've built and, minimize their weaknesses when you're going up against your opponent's side and figuring out what their weaknesses are, especially and how your side particularly can, can maximize its opportunities to hit those weaknesses. Anyway, Warhammer pre-End Times and the New Age of Sigmar, this idea of, this gothic fantasy setting, Warhammer 40,000 was basically that idea and those themes ripped straight into the far future, literally 40,000 years after the birth of Christ, the 41st millennium. And the Space Marines are the iconic side. They are the human... not exactly the main human side because you've got the Imperial Guard, which are like the General Army. The Space Marines are the ultra cool, a fusion of like that Semper Fi attitude that you have around the US Marines with feudal knights from the medieval era and, hardcore powered armor, because these guys basically wear these huge hulking suits of not exactly sleek, but very flat, broad surfaces powered armor. They're not hyper detailed with pipes and bits and pieces running all over them. And
unless they're Forge World.
Exactly, unless
they're also genetically modified as well. So they're 8 feet tall before they start putting on power armor. So they're
exactly. So
massive, it's scary hulks with nasty guns and intelligence, and they're a bit scary.
Exactly. And they're all very, they're ultra attitude, like, and they shall know no fear, and in the Emperor's name. And you can probably find videos of Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2, which actually features in the cutscenes between games dialogue between Space Marines, and it really sort of gets that macho, full-chested swagger that the Space Marines have. And of course, that's why preteen to pubescent boys love them so much, because they're, you know, they're that ultimate 80s, 90s action hero kind of thing, you know?
I would argue that the most popular army with young, both boys and girls, is actually orcs, because they are just so much fun to play.
Yeah.
You get 1,000,001 of them to stick on the table. They're really easy to paint. You just whack them together and you just flood them across, and they can't hit the side of the barn. So you roll a 6-sided die. They'll only actually hit what they're aiming at if you roll a 6.
Oh, bloody heck.
They are amazing, and they don't run very fast and they don't run very far, but you get a lot of them, and it's just basically the best tactic with orcs is that you run straight at the enemy and you whack them with whatever you can pick up on the way. And that works very, very well.
We have, if I can interrupt very quickly, we have another question from Christian. He asks, let's select this, and I don't know whether this actually sort of pops up on the screen or anything, because, you know, I've not seen this from the audience perspective. Christian asks, have you guys seen the Ultramarines movie? I will say very quickly before I let Sim answer this one, I know the movie you're talking about. No, I haven't. From what I understand, the only way you can actually get it is if you special order the DVDs. It looked like a bit of fun from what I've seen, and it's, you know, it's basically a distillation of, it looks like an accurate representation of what the Space Marines are portrayed as in the rest of the Warhammer 40,000 fiction. How about you, Sim? Have you seen Ultramarines?
No, I've heard people quote it. But not so far.
It
would be a matter of time, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'll happen, just not yet.
Yeah. The first thought that occurred to me was quoting Ultramarines. You could probably be basically quoting most of the Space Marine quotes from most of the fluff that's been produced in the last 20 or so years. Okay, I'll have a quick bop back to social media. Twitter, done. Google+, Pinterest, not yet, but I did put you up on my Instagram page, so I think that is the social media's pretty much covered. Okay. General guest news. Well, I'll tell you what, since we last spoke, Sim, how have things been going for you on the paid-to-play front?
Gee, not really anything moved. I'm still motoring on. My day job is wrapping up in a couple of weeks, and so I've been pretty much putting all my time and effort into that. I've got Golden Demon coming up, so I've just decided very last minute that I'll paint something up for that in the next 2 weeks because I'm insane. Monday is a public holiday here, so I've got a long weekend, and I've got next weekend. Anthony's single figure, and I'm insane, but I'll do that. And then I'm flat chat busy every day until my contract finishes the end of May. So I'll hopefully pick up again after that.
Yeah. I'm just having a quick look on my news feeds because I normally try and do a bunch of updates for what my guests have been up to paid to play wise. The main thing, I think I've already mentioned it on Facebook, is that my international award-winning cosplay guest, Major Sam, has recently kicked off a Patreon page, which I think you will find at, let's see, patreon.com. Let's see if patreon.com Major Sam works. This is what I get for not having the Major hyphen Sam maybe, but let's do it the easy way and actually do a search for her in Patreon. That'll probably bring it up. So yeah, I think she's basically, fantastic. She's got 8 patrons and is getting $34 a month, which is not bloody bad for a Patreon that's only been going, I think, for the last few weeks. So congratulations to Sam, in case she happens to see this at some point. And everybody, if you enjoy cosplay and you want to try and get into it, I reckon that there are many, 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 many worse options than getting advice from someone who actually won the C2E2 Crown Championships of Cosplay at the beginning of this year after taking out some national awards at the end of last year. I mean, just have a look at the Julieta cosplay that she came up with for C2E2, and the woman is absolutely nuts, the amount of detail and work that she put into it. So I hope that the winnings managed to cover some of that between anything that she had to cough out for flights to bloody Chicago. But just congratulations and good on her for what looks like a fantastic start in getting in a pay-to-play career. But aside from that, what has everyone else been up to? If you need some, if you're in the Houston, Texas area, Kristen Baker has got an event coming up in July to help folks convert leads into sales and therefore money. What else? No, I don't really worry about Twitter notifications. I just want to see what my guests have been up to. And that's a thought. Have I added you, Sim, to my list of honoured guests? As you're now not a wonton anymore, you've got an episode right as of today. You do indeed. Oh, and thank you very much for the retweet there. So let's have a look. Want to guess 44 members. Come on. Oh, my phone is buzzing away there. Let's just have a quick look. Have we got any more? Nope, no new Q&As just yet. I have not added you to my list of honoured guests. That needs to be fixed up right now. So let me do that while I'm thinking of it. Sim Lauren, there she is. And here is me looking at the screen with a glassy-eyed vacant expression, mouth hanging open. So where are we? Add or remove from lists. Off the wish list and onto honoured guests. There we go. So you'll probably get that notification in a couple of seconds. Where are we? I don't think Gav has put anything. Gav, as in Miracle of Sound, Gavin Dunn has put anything new out just yet. Joanna Penn is promoting her tutorial about how to build your own self-hosted author website in 30 minutes, so give that a look. I have been chatting with a few more authors recently. I do... what was her name, or what was his name, I should say? Wayne Nichols, the fellow I chatted with a couple of episodes ago, who gets to draw comic books for Marvel Comics and various other places. He put me on to a lady by the name of Kimberly Clark, who he's done some novel covers for. I chatted with her last night, so her episode will go live in mid-June. I managed to get my time zones asked about face when I was queuing up a chat with a lady in the States on Saturday morning. It meant that I got up to chat with her at 7:30, only to find messages from her from 5:30 in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm here. Where are you? I think something must have gone wrong." So I had to do a little bit of groveling there. But aside from that, let me see. General podcast-wise, as you can tell, I'm actually using my headset right at the moment. I've got no idea what the audio quality is like. From memory, the last time I was consistently using this back in, I think, the first 6 or 7 episodes of the show, the audio quality was not great. How is it sounding to you, Sim?
It's all right. It was a little bit stuttered at the beginning of this, but it might be my internet connection because the video is cleared up as well. It's nowhere near as pixelated.
Yeah. So we'll see how we go in that case. I'll listen back to the last episode that I recorded with Kimberly, because I did it with his headset, and we'll see what the results are like with this video. But I'm contemplating, I asked my friends in the podcast discovery group on Facebook for some recommendations, and in the sort of like US $50 to $100 range, and they did give a microphone which can be used both via USB, and it's also got what they call an XLR connection, which is sort of the big chunky connection cable that you associate normally with audio, and I think it's about $60 US plus about $10 postage if I order it through Amazon. So I might just get my mitts on that, because this thing is not so great if you're going mobile. I mean, otherwise I'd basically be having to take it off and somehow stick it between my guest and myself, or maybe doing this and then doing that. Yeah, so it just doesn't really, it's not a good thing for mobile recording. And
you can get double jack USB inputs, so you put two headsets into the same jack, into your whatever you're using.
In that, that's an interesting proposition, though. I've got to admit, in that case, this cost me about $120 at Hardly Normal Australian. So I think, given the option for the moment, I might just go for
the Beats by Dre. You can daisy chain.
Ooh,
so you just plug my Beats by Dre into your Beats by Dre, and then Beats by Dre knows that somehow we're both connected and we listen to the same thing, and it picks up both of our voices and stuff.
So Beats by
this was a 10-minute demo in an airport when I was killing time a couple of months ago. No, that was last year. But that impressed me.
That's I might have to look into that in that case. We'll see how we go. And so where can I find that demo? Have you got it up on your YouTube page or anything like that? Or
no, I was in an airport just killing time before my flight, and they had a bunch of guys showing off the new headphone sets that had just been released.
Right. So it wasn't
at an incredible discount, so I picked up a pair. So no, it wasn't a demo. It was I was running. It was a demo that I walked past and was intrigued enough to go, oh, okay. But I can't. Oh, the difference! You would not believe the difference. I thought it was a crock, but oh my goodness, those headphones are really, really nice. And I own a beautiful blue pair now. I didn't get the ones at Daisy Chain though. They were a little more expensive.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to have a look into that. Oh, and we do have another question from Christian. Here we go. There's been a lot of talk about 40 miniatures, which I assume he means 40k miniatures. What do you think about other miniatures? For example, Warmer Hordes, Weird, Infinity, Reaper, etc. And by the way, just to clarify, Warmer Hordes is what people like to call 2 games by one company, which is, and I'll just mark that as the question we're answering at the moment. I've got another one from Gamer XP. We will get to you soon. Warmer Hordes is what is the slang term for 2 miniatures games by the same company, War Machine and Hordes. War Machine, they're both sort of like fantasy settings, you know, again, mystical pasts that never were with magic and elves, etc., etc., etc. War Machine's got what's called kind of a steampunk vibe to it, where you've got people are using their magic to power these big hulking steam-powered robots called warjacks, and that's why you can actually play it with maybe only a few miniatures. Like the starter sets for a game of War Machine are a warcaster and maybe 2 or 3 warjacks, so that you can basically, and that's enough to play a game of a certain amount of points. You don't sort of like have to, if you buy, which is kind of the case with Warhammer 40,000, if you buy a squad of miniatures, you can play a game with it, but it's really not enough to play a satisfying game of Warhammer 40,000. And Hordes is...
Kill Team's pretty awesome.
Okay. Sounds like a particular variant of 40k, but... Hordes is set in the same universe as War Machine, but it's got more of a dark magic, monstery kind of vibe, where you play these factions of various magical beasties, and they are compatible, so you can actually pit a War Machine side against a Horde side and have fun with that. Speaking personally, I did give War Machine a go and Infinity sort of a go. I did manage to play one game of War Machine, and I will say I think it pretty much confirmed that generally miniatures gaming isn't for me. It was interesting. Maybe I just hadn't really given it the chance that perhaps I should have. Perhaps I should have played a few more games of it. But I don't know. With my circumstances at the moment, getting out to play a game of War Machine, it's time away from home and my wife, and especially right at the moment with her health troubles, it's not the kind of thing that I can. I suppose, yeah, when it came down to it, it just wasn't for me. And I got into Infinity because I love the look of the miniatures. Infinity is very science fiction and very sleek and neat, and it's got this sort of anime vibe to it if you look at some of the artwork.
If you love Infinity, you will love Anvil Industries' game Afterlife. It is that aesthetic, but a bit grittier, and they're resin. They're not fiddly, difficult little horrible miniatures to put together. Like the Infinity ones are so tiny and delicate and quite mental or future. So I'll send you over some of those. See how you go.
Well, don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it too much long, because I will say I think Infinity kind of broke my heart, because the reason I got into it is because they have this studio painter by the name of Angel. I think it's pronounced Giraldes, Giraldez.
I met him at Salute. He was at Salute.
Oh, fantastic!
He was running painting demos at Salute. It was brilliant.
But I mean, if you go to the Infinity website and just look at the miniatures and how gloriously, fantastically painted they are, I mean, I wouldn't have minded getting my hands on the Pan-European Cutter, which is a big mech unit, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's right up my alley. But I think trying to paint the Aleph miniatures that I got the starter set and the support set. And yeah, it's just like, when you're kind of a beginner and intellectually that you're kind of a beginner, but you get invested in the game because of all of these lovely, lovely pictures. And it just breaks your heart, because really you haven't bought the miniatures for the miniatures, and you haven't bought the miniatures for the game. You've bought the miniatures because that wonderful feeling you got looking at the pictures and thinking that could be mine, and then you sit down and start painting. It's horrible. And yeah, I mean, I think I tried a quick game of Infinity at one point when the miniatures weren't even painted, and yeah, I don't know, those two experiences is just sort of like straight out of the gate. I remember a guy on a role-playing game forum that I frequented for a while. I mention it. Adam Coble, who is in my next chat, mentions it, episode 81, called The Forge. And he kind of said, when he was talking about a good time, having a good time playing RPGs, he said his minimum was fun and pretty good. He didn't aim for a spectacular, awesome session every time. Just get together and have fun with the people you're with. And yeah, it wasn't playing Infinity and playing War Machine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. It was kind of like, and I just thought, for the money you put into it and for the time you put into it, and maybe I didn't give it a chance. Maybe I didn't let myself sort of, play a few more games and warm up to it and really get to understand it. But yeah, I just sort of made that decision that no, maybe it's not for me. And
the problem I have,
you and I were,
sorry, when I pick up a new game, all your play is about looking up rules. Yeah. And that it stops and you look up a rule, and then you do the next bit, then it stops and you look up a rule. I don't start having fun until I start telling some cool stories. But I play primarily to show off my cool painting and to put my models on a table and tell a cool story. And until you've got at least some general rules under your belt, it's not. You do have to give it a bit of a go. And one thing I found with Infinity, my husband's just recently picked that up, and he's got Nomads, I think. Is that it's so complicated and changes depending on who you're playing against. So it's not like 40K or even Malifaux, where you just learn the rules, what your guys do, and you kind of play in the similar way no matter who you're against. It's really, really dependent on who you've got and what they've got and what their things are doing. So
yeah. Either way, but
you might have had a better game playing the same faction as you in the beginning, just for a couple of games to get used to it.
Possibly. I will say this though, I wound up selling my War Machine Retribution of Skyra starter set and my Infinity miniatures, and putting the money towards XCOM the board game. And I will say this, I mean, we've already talked about it in the episode, Sim, but I don't regret the trade, because XCOM the board game, if I had the chance, I would be playing that a lot more. I mean, international, it's actually no. What time is it in for you at the moment, Sim?
It's quarter past midnight.
Quarter past midnight. Okay.
So
midnight. International
the time zone's actually better when it's summer in Australia. The time distance isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about tabletop day. Sorry.
Yes, so I was saying, so now for you, International Tabletop Day is officially over. It ended for me about 9 hours ago, and I sort of knew it was coming, but I hadn't really made any plans for it, again, because, you know, it either involves going out or getting people in. So next year I'll try and get, you know, fingers crossed, everything is a little bit better generally life-wise than things are at the moment. So I'll try and aim to do something cool for next year. And yeah, I didn't do anything. I even had half a thought of maybe just breaking XCOM the board game out and doing a solo run, but in between keeping busy and everything else, and having a chat last night with another guest, it just didn't wind up happening. So how about you? How did you make sure to get anything in for International Tabletop Day, Sim?
No, I didn't realize it was on until America woke up this afternoon. Basically, my job has been taking up a lot of time, and I sort of only just realized that Golden Demon's on in 2 weeks, and I missed it completely.
Okay, well, I tell you what, I've been talking a fair bit, or we've both been talking about sort of miniatures gaming. Sim, so miniatures in general.
We did have a question. We had
exactly. Well, I think I just need to let you answer that question from Christian before we move on to. Sorry about this, Gamer XP. We're nerds. We like to ramble on about things we love. So, how about you? What's your opinion of that broader miniatures gaming scene? You mentioned Afterlife just now.
Afterlife is there's a very small indie gaming studio in East London, very close to where I live, called Anvil Industries, and they've got a game that kickstarted last year called Afterlife, which is a futuristic sci-fi skirmish game. Plays very weird. It's not turn-based, it's kind of instance-based.
Yeah.
So and it's very reactive. So it's not, I'm going to sit here and do all my things while you do nothing and react to what I'm doing. And then when I've had my whole turn, you have your whole turn. It's very much, I'll do a little thing and then you can choose to sort of stop me there and then with your guys and react to what I'm doing more in the moment, which I find more
sort of that
engaging.
Infinity kind of vibe to it, yeah.
Definitely. But for me, the miniatures themselves are a resin. I've got a nickel allergy, which has gotten worse recently. Ooh. So I'm very, very, very much trying to steer clear of metal miniatures as much as possible. So I just put a garbage bag down in a separate area of the room and cover all my tools up and then wash everything afterwards and chuck it all out. It's a massive pain in the ass. So I just stick with resin and plastic, and that's a bit easier. And because of that, I'm tending to go more towards the Games Workshop stuff. A lot of Anvil Industries, Studio McVeigh, their 2 games I've picked up are Sedition Wars, which again it's this board game in a box with paintable miniatures in it, similar to XCOM but way more intricate because Studio McVeigh. And their latest one, Blood Rage, well, not latest. The latest hasn't quite delivered yet. That's 7 Deadly Sins or something similar along that vibe. It's annoying. I can't think of it, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm sorry. But I'm tending to do that a lot more. And now I guess you've got Malifaux now going to plastics. But I still got my metal miniatures I haven't kind of assembled, and I want to do them next. There's a lot of Malifaux I'm seeing in my local friendly gaming store. A lot of Star Wars. The fleet battles are amazing. The miniatures are so detailed for tiny, tiny things. It's really reasonably priced. That's amazing game to watch.
We're talking about 2 games here, folks, by Fantasy Flight Games, which is, by the way, I've chatted with 2 of their staff members, Lucas Litzinger and Andrew Navarro. Speaking of International Tabletop Day, one thing I did do was retweet and repost links to tabletop-related episodes, so they are in there. And the games are Star Wars X-Wing and Star Wars Armada. X-Wing is about the fighter scale, you know, the X-Wings, the Y-Wings, the TIE fighters, etc., etc. And you can even buy, I mean, the X-Wing miniatures are about maybe about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, but you can also buy bigger miniatures, which are about yay big, of ships like the Millennium Falcon and all those larger freighter type ones. And Star Wars Armada is, as Sim was saying, the capital ship scale. So you've got the Star Destroyers, the Mon Calamari cruisers for the Rebel Alliance, and the Nebula. I mean,
Slave One.
Exactly. Oh yeah, Slave One is definitely X-Wing. Although you can get a pack for Armada, which has like Slave One and the Millennium Falcon and all that in really, really tiny scale, of course. But yeah, it's incredible the amount of stuff that's been coming out from Fantasy Flight with Star Wars. I mean, I'd still
and they're pre-painted.
Yes, you don't have to paint them, although someone has already
paint them.
Someone has already painted the standard X-Wing from, because they've re-released X-Wing in a Star Wars The Force Awakens version. So you can actually get the TIE fighters and the new style X-Wing, which for you geeks out there is the Incon T80 series X-Wing, from the movie. And someone, my guest Terry Lee Torco, actually put a video up of repainting it, because it's sort of like got a generic white and blue paint scheme. So it's got the black and orange Poe Dameron pilot paint scheme from the movie. Yeah, so it's incredible what's going on that front. Look, I have the feeling we've kind of...
You haven't lived until you've seen the pink TIE fighter. Pink TIE fighter. I've seen a pink TIE fighter. It was brilliant.
Bloody heck. So look that up on the web, folks, if you can. I tell you what, Gamer XP has been waiting in the wings for ages for us to answer his question. It's getting on to 9:20, so technically I've got about 10 minutes worth of chat time left, although it is always tempting to go over, especially when I have an awesome guest on for this launch party as well. Okay, Gamer XP asks, speaking of microphones, do you use any audio editors or have any recommendation? Okay. Yes. So, bugger it. Okay. Thank you very much, Mitchell of Yoko's Corner, for reposting the question. Gamer XP, sorry that we took so long to get around to you, that your internet connection dropped out, but this will be up on YouTube, and your question will be, we're just about to answer it now, at least I am. Audio editors wise, I use Audacity. It is it's a shareware, freeware application. A ton of folks in the podcasting area use it. My guest Tim Reed, who runs his own podcast, Small Business Big Marketing, basically, you know, likes to be a poster boy for zero to low budget podcasting, and he uses Audacity to do his edits. Yeah, it's when it comes down to it, I've discovered that really it's all I need. With a little bit of research, you can figure out how to get Audacity to do virtually everything that I assume a professional paid audio editing piece of software would do. So yay for the freeware revolution, I will say. And you were saying you use Audacity as well. I mean, what do you use it for?
I use it, I make interesting things. I get stuck on planes with no internet frequently, and I just chuck it up. I make little videos. I used to put a lot more on YouTube, but I've stripped that right back. but just recording things for people, making video messages, or putting audio into videos and content I make for work as well. I use the Adobe, whatever Avid's called now. Let me have a look. It's on iPad. And it's got really good video editing as well. You don't have to drop the video channel in. Pinnacle by Adobe, which is the old Avid. So they bought Avid, which was it's a non-linear editing program I learnt to use back in the 90s. And the free version lets you have up to 3 channels of audio, which is really all I ever need. And video as well, and you can import video into it and out of it, and upload it straight to YouTube, and then have YouTube. Actually, the YouTube inline editing is pretty good as well.
Are there any
online? So
right. Are there any limitations to using the freeware version? Because I've been keeping half an eye on video software, being tempted by the idea of putting out the odd video podcast. I even have some recorded video from when I was chatting with Ross Barber Smith. Congratulations on the wedding, mate. It looks like it was a fantastic day. Anyway, I actually had to get him to send me the video because the app that I was trying to use to record the video basically mangled it, unfortunately. But I did a little bit of investigation, and I couldn't find a freeware video editor that wasn't like a trial version of another piece of software that didn't limit you somehow. Like, I think there was one that would only edit a 5-minute video.
No, this one, the limits are the plugins. So the extra content, when you upgrade, you get more options on templates and things to put interstitials and commercials and transitions and things in it. If you're just using general fades, and you're quite happy to do a lot of the manual work yourself, if you've got it sounds like you've got your intro already done. It's just a clip you need to chuck on the front. That's fine. I don't think you'll have a problem with it.
So if, for example, I've got an hour's worth of video of me on camera and my guest on camera, so I've got 2 sort of video streams, and I just want to be able to cut between them as I'm talking and my guest is talking, Adobe Pinnacle, the freeware version, it can handle that?
Yeah.
Bloody marvelous.
Yeah,
I'll have
you
to
just
get my mix
import the 2 channels, and you tell it which bits, and you cut, and you just drop in the bits you want, and you go from there, and you just all works on time codes.
Okay.
It's really quick.
All right. Well, Matt, that question is done. Again, my apologies to GamerXP for taking so long to get around to answering your bloody question. I hope that we answered it sufficiently for when you do view it back. We have a couple more questions from Christian Taylor, who says +1 Audacity. Absolutely. So I'll just select that and get that out of the way. And yes, to answer your next question, Christian, Rob, did I hear you mention you were going to have Adam Coble on the podcast, as in at Dungeon World Adam Coble? As a matter of fact, Christian, yes, I got him. Terry Lee Torco, who I chatted with a few episodes ago, another tabletop gamer and miniatures or gamer, got me in touch with him. I like to ask my guests when I'm wrapping up, after the chat itself has been recorded, of course, if they can think of 2 people who would also make great guests for the show. And she suggested Adam and another fella by the name of Sebastian Ringette. So yes, Adam, if I didn't mention it already, episode 81 of the podcast, which goes live on, let me just check my whiteboard here, the 15th of May, Sunday morning, Australian time. I'm actually... I was doing my launch parties at 10:30, but considering that you lovely people have actually fronted up at 8:30, I'm thinking maybe on a Sunday morning the earliest start isn't such a bad idea. It interferes less with my wife's and my schedule, and from the sounds of it, because it's not further on in the day, it interferes less with you guys' schedule as well. I still get my US audience at a reasonable time on a Saturday afternoon. I get you fine folks in the UK before you absolutely positively have to go to bed on a Saturday night. So I might put them back to there. But Chris, Adam and I had a fantastic chat about developing Dungeon World. We talked about his live streaming of video games. We talked about him being the game master in residence at Roll20, and we talked about the stuff that he does for the Roll Play, which is ROLLPLAY channel for the YouTube. The YouTuber, I should say, sorry, It Me JP, where at the moment he is game mastering, I think, 2 campaigns, one of which is a Star Wars role-playing game campaign, another shout out to Fantasy Flight Games there, using the Age of Rebellion rules, and he's also running the Swan Song, and I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know, Christian, but he's also running Swan Song, which is a campaign using the Stars Without Number RPG rules, which from what I understand has a very old school Traveller kind of vibe to it. So yes, you can go onto YouTube and see, if you've ever been curious as to what an RPG being played is like, or what the hobby is all about, you can actually watch people playing. I would always recommend Critical Role as a place to go to. If I think it's pretty much the absolute hands down best example of an RPG campaign being played for a YouTube audience that I've ever seen, and probably just generally because it's a bunch of voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons, for crying out loud. They're paid, their day job is paid performers, so they know how to really bring their characters to life with their voices and coming up with stupid things for them to do. Whereas sometimes us RPGers, maybe we are a little bit not quite as socially adjusted as others, so we do find a little bit of empowerment in the rules allowing us to do things, and we're not as good performers as the fine folks on Critical Role are. But anyway, still, please go check them out, and please come back this time next week for the launch party for episode 81 with Adam Coble. Fingers crossed I can get him along. I don't know whether that's going to happen. It really depends on his schedule, but here's hoping. So I think that has pretty much covered most of what I was going to talk about in this episode. Let me just go through my checklist. I was talking about Miracle of Sound a little earlier on. I spotted a tweet from him. Christian says, I am waving my hands in the air like a Muppet, which is apparently a Dungeon World joke. But, I mean, heck, I know what you mean. Yep. Kermit from waving his hands at the beginning of every episode of the Muppet Show. So, yes, Miracle of Sound said about 6 hours ago that he was going to see if he could get a Ratchet and Clank song put out, which he's is hoping will satisfy the folks who've been looking for a light-hearted, fun song out of him after a little bit of overabundance of angst and metal and what have you lately, which really there's nothing all that wrong with. But one of my favorite songs of his at the moment is Messin' with the Best, his Bayonetta song. Once you hear it, it's damned hard to get out of your head. It's all cheery and J-pop, and I think he manages to capture Bayonetta's attitude and essence pretty damn well. So go and listen to that, but keep your eyes open on Twitter and on Miracle of Sound's various social media presences at the moment. Fingers crossed that song will be going up soon. Aside from that,
have you played the new Ratchet and Clank game?
No, I do not have. I've never had a PlayStation. I don't have a PlayStation at the moment. My Xbox 360 has decided, I think I need to take to it with an air compressor because it's decided to stop working, and I think it's just too clogged up with insulating elements like dog hair. But that's been one of those things I've been meaning to get round to for the last month or two, and I've just not bothered yet, which I guess goes to show how important the Xbox 360 and console gaming is in my life right now. I mean, if I want to stream YouTube, I can do that with our Blu-ray player, which is connected to the internet via an Ethernet connection. And if any gaming at the moment, if I'm gaming, I'm kind of doing on my PC. I mean, really, gaming-wise, I'm concentrating on the Pathfinder game that I'm putting together for my mates both up here in Cairns and down in Melbourne. So, and aside from that, there's board gaming at the Goblin, which sooner or later I'll be getting back into so I can play a bit more XCOM. I think that's kind of where I am at the moment with regard to digital gaming anyway. On the podcasting front, I do want to say that my first appearance as an actual guest on somebody's show will be going live on Tuesday morning US time and Wednesday early morning Australian time. It is the Raw and Real podcast by a gentleman by the name of CJ Ripka. It's pretty interesting because he got me on to talk about pay to play. We wound up chatting for about an hour, split the chat into two halves. The second half wound up being about pay to play, and the first half wound up being about RPGs. So I guess after living in denial for the past decade or so, I think I'm just finally relaxing and giving it another go and seeing how it works out. Beyond that, I've got 3 chats in the can. As I mentioned, Adam Coble's one goes live next for episode 81 in 2 weeks. I have chatted with a voice actor by the name of Anne Torick. She is fully freelance, has been paying her way through university on her voice acting thing. She's been doing a degree in education, but actually once that winds up for her, she, I think, is going to be, from what she was saying, she's going to be pursuing voice acting as her main thing because that's what she really wants to do. And as I think I mentioned earlier on, Kimberly Clark, self-published adult paranormal urban fantasy author, prefers the sexy stuff over the romancy stuff, just so you know. Oh, by the way, I forgot to shout out, oh God, I've got Thanks Justin. And now, of course, Justin K. Day, the fellow who runs the Random Transmissions podcast. He's the one who got me in touch with Anne. Again, Terry, thank you very much for getting me in touch with Terry Lee Talko. Thank you for getting me in touch with Adam Coble. And Wayne Nichols, thank you for getting me in touch with Kimberly. We had a great chat yesterday afternoon about making it as a self-published author. She's got a trilogy of books on sale on Amazon right at the moment. It's the Battles in the Dark trilogy, but do a search for that or Kimberly Clark. You should be able to find them and download them onto your Kindle with little trouble. And that will be going up in, I think, the second Sunday in June. I've got a few other people. I've got 2 chats lined up that I've to be recorded, and yes, I've got a few other people sort of on the simmer right at the moment. I do need to follow up with a couple of folks. I've been a little bit slack on that regard. So I think really that kind of brings us to the end of today's fantastic launch party. Lauren, have you got anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
We didn't talk a lot about knitting, but
we didn't.
It seemed everybody was in here for the miniatures, didn't we?
It's yes, pretty much. Yeah, it seems like that was the case. Yeah. I mean, so very quickly.
Any questions? I'll keep an eye on the video on YouTube for the next couple of weeks, and if anyone has any knitting questions or any further questions, I'll jump on and answer them there.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as you'll find out when you listen to the episode, Sim is a consignment knitter. She does work on spec for clothing stores across the UK, and she has also been knitting for most of her life. So, you know, it's a love just as much as painting miniatures is. So yes, if you do have any questions about that, please get in touch. You can again find her on Twitter. Her handle is PaintySim, PaintySim for Mary. So go check her out. Go check out our episode. And in the meantime, until next time, and please come back next time. It'll be lovely to have you along for this launch party. I have been, I am, and hopefully will continue to be for a good while yet, Rob Farker, asking you to be good, be kind, and be a little dangerous.